Gemini, you still need to do an annotation step. So you still need to use sniff-f, or you need to use VET. It doesn't like any other tool. So it says don't use Anavar, things like that. So I will typically come in and annotate my variants using this tool set, this variant effect predictor. And so this is a pretty good tool set that it has a web interface, so you can put a file up on the web, but I don't know what its file restrictions are, how big of a file you can load in it. But you do have a standalone script that you can install on your local Unix machine and then call out to Ensemble and pull the information back. And what it does is it does what I just showed you. It annotates that VCF file with the name of the gene and so forth and the location and all of that. So that gives you now gene annotation. Now you know, well, this gene has these particular mutations. So if you're only interested in, like, I'm looking for a stop gain in my favorite gene, do I see it? Then VEP, sniff-f, Anavar, those tools will allow you to be able to determine that. And that's all those tools really to look at functional impact. How lethal are they? Benign? Is this particular mutation benign, or is this particular mutation pathogenic? But I warn you, CYP and polyphen argue with each other all the time. One will say benign, the other one will say pathogenic. And if you look back at how CYP and polyphen were created, you'll understand why. So at the end of the day, once you have your annotated from VEP, you can then plug it into Gemini. And what the beauty of Gemini here allows you to do is to annotate all along with, you can now annotate extra columns, extra information from all of these various databases here. And if there's a database here that you don't have, or that they don't have built in, they have scripts for you to pull it, for you to create your own. This is an older snapshot of this, but they used to didn't have EXACT, the exome aggregation consortium, where they had 67,000 exomes. But they now have that in there. And when Nomad came out, the successor to EXACT, I wrote a simple script to bring in my Nomad database, and then so I can then go against that and look to see, well, what variants of mine are in the Nomad database. And so this basically allows you to come in, look at ClinVar. Has it been ever seen in ClinVar? Does OMAN, the online Mendelian of man, inheritance of man, is there a phenotype associated with that gene? Then you get the KEGG pathways, of course, Ensemble, 1,000 genome. Here are the CAD scores. I'm sure you heard Greg Cooper talk about his CAD scores. Then polyphen and CIF. So these three here give you sort of a sense of, well, how lethal is it based off of the conservation of those various SNPs. You tie into cosmic, GERP scores, how conserved is that gene, and if it was to be messed up. And then I included in various allele frequencies from the 1,000 genome project, from the EXACT and all that. So how rare is a particular variant? So for like the undiagnosed disease program, we're looking for things that are less than 1% in the population. So when we go out to, if I can type, it's getting to be the end of the day. That's not it. So if I want to come out and I'm interested in my favorite gene or a particular region, I'm gonna pick one of their examples, and it's a little slow, I must admit, but it works. Normal and doing cohort studies, trying to identify things. So as long as you can understand the SQL, MySQL type database, and you can do a query on this at any time. I've exported it out, just a very simplistic version of it, and let me see if I can find it. Here we go. so this is from a particular patient to the AGHI here, our Alabama Genomic Health Initiative that we've started up. And I'm just looking at one of my favorite genes. I'm trying to test a couple of pipelines for our new and upcoming AGHI group. And I was just pulling out my favorite gene out of Gemini after I annotated it. And so here at this chromosome, at this start position, it has this particular dbSNP. But what you'll notice quickly is I've got at least 300 columns here of information of all of those databases that you've searched. Now you can sort of say this gets ridiculous quick, you know, searching through this. That's why it's really good to have the ability to understand how to query that database and pull out the information you want versus creating this gigantic text file. And if you look at a genome, this genome file, when you make it as a text file, was 300-something columns with 3.2 billion bases. Not all of them are mutated, of course. Your file is at least a couple of gigabytes, and Excel does not open that. So you really need to understand how to query this if you're going to use Gemini in that sense. But as you can see, tool set called SNP-SIFT that allows you to do some of this extra annotation, but it has gotten very complicated to use it when they've now got HG38 and HG19. You have to know some unique commands to call out HG19 or HG38, and it's just I've gotten more frustrated with it than I've started searching a year or so ago for better. And you, like I mentioned this morning, you can go out to the CAD website and actually score your variants here by uploading a VCF file, but notice here, they don't want a file more than 2 megabytes size or over 100,000 variants. They don't. They're not designed, their server is not designed to handle your genome. They want you just to tinker with it. And so you can do this and annotate and all that, and it comes out in a text file again, much like what you saw in Gemini, almost several hundreds of columns of information. And if you have a file that's much bigger than 2 megabytes, which every single file I own is more than that, except when I do these demos, you can come here and go into the download section, and here are all the databases that they have that you need to download in their file sizes. So see, this one's 6.1 gigabytes in size. This will take a little time to download all of that. And then they have this nice little scripts and README section that you can download, install, and run it via command line. Again, you're back to that blinking cursor. I'm sorry, a lot of these